NERDSoul.
Why you a black man in love?
Passion for this shit, you know.
All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of Black Together, A Walk in Her Shoes. I am Lady Lisa. I'm here with my sister cousin partner in crime, Madam Buddaphlai. Say hello.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.
All right, y'all. So we are finishing off a series that we've been doing, and we took a little bit of a break, but here we are. We are part 4 of our series, Who's Loving You? So this is part 4, called I Want to Be Free, being at peace with being you and not needing or seeking the approval of others. So before we dive in, Madam Buddaphlai, what do we have in our shoebox today?
I'm so glad you asked. We have a Victoria's Secret pink brand peace sign thong sandal.
Well, all right. Have peace on your feet.
I mean, if we're talking about having peace within, we got to have peace on our feet.
There you go. All right. So let's do just a very brief review of parts 1 through 3, and we will have links below to those previous parts. So part 1 was just generally talking about beauty standards in society and beauty standards in our culture. Part 2, we talked about the marginalization of Black women and the appropriation of our beauty, our features, styles, etc. Part 3 talked about how we reconcile pretty much everything we talked about in parts 1 and 2, and how you reconcile all of that with who you are personally as a Black woman, and how you find yourself in really heal from everything that you have dealt with and are dealing with to become comfortable with you and confident in you. Okay. So now, we're going into part 4, but before we do, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, that was a good summary. Go right ahead.
All right. Okay, cool. So here we are once again, part 4. So we're talking about I want to be free. You're being at peace with being you, not seeking approval from anywhere else. Okay. So now you've done the work. You know who you are. You've gone into prayer. You've gone into counseling. You've done meditation and come to terms with what your issues are, who you are, your experiences, your character, so on and so forth. So now what? What do we do next to get into this place of being at peace with all that you've discovered about you? What do you think, Madam Buddaphlai?
Well, I started looking online about all of that, but and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think that what happened for me is I had to figure out a new normal. I think we get accustomed if we've come from dysfunction or chaos or turmoil, that type of situation, or having those types of emotions within, that becomes our comfort zone. And so we create situations that help us to feel comfortable.
Right.
And in finding inner peace, and becoming happy or satisfied with your life or your circumstances or yourself, you have to figure out your new normal, because it's going to be uncomfortable. The quiet is going to be, uncomfortable. The lack of this, push pull chaotic nonsense it's going to be off-putting to you.
Yeah.
And so you have to find ways to help to support staying faithful, so to speak, to this new normal, because everything in you, even when you've done the work, everything in you says to you, this is outside of what is comfortable, what is normal to me,
Right.
So that was the first thing, even though I looked up some things online, that was the first thing that kind of came to my mind. But what about you?
Yeah. Um, you know, I think the first thing I think of is it's difficult to, if you're going to be honest with yourself and real with yourself in the process, a lot of times it's difficult to come to terms with um, what you see that you don't like,
Mm,
about you. It could be, things that you've done in your past, the way you have conducted yourself, carried yourself, choices you've made, right? When
mm,
you actually embrace and dive into taking responsibility for yourself, which if anybody's listened to the show, I'm a huge advocate of,
mhm.
that takes you out of a place of victimhood,
Yes.
right? When you take responsibility for you, but it's a difficult place to be in,
Mhm.
very difficult place to be in, because it's so much easier to be like, well, they did this to me and they da, 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 da. It's like, but what, but well, you're responsible for you. What choices do you make to put yourself in this place? And so there's a lot of difficulty in that, but the other side of it, oh my Lord, the other
Mhm.
side of it is so freeing. And so, I just say you have to take the time and you have to force yourself to just really sit in that place and
Yes.
say, all right, these are the choices I made. I was wrong when I did this. That was a horrible choice. I didn't think about this. This is how, this choice has affected me for the rest of my life. And how am I going to deal with that?
Mhm.
How am I going to correct it if I can?
Mhm.
What am I going to do differently going forward? How am
Yes.
I going to handle it? This is a big thing. How am I going to handle it when other people don't want to let me grow?
Oh, speak on it, girl.
When they
Yes.
want to continue to speak on my past and what was, and don't
Mhm.
even want to consider that I've grown, that I've changed, that I'm different.
Mm. Yes.
It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot, but it's all very necessary to get
Mhm.
to a place of being so free that it's like, who said what now?
Yeah,
Who? Oh,
that's real.
all right. So and so said something about you. Well, y'all go on and keep discussing it like you been.
Right.
You know, to get to
Yes.
that place where you're not entertaining any of that. And it's like, oh, well, cool. If y'all, I'm glad I'm the topic.
Yes.
Thank you for thinking of me. You know what? That's a new thing you can say to people when so and so said such and such. Thank you for thinking of me,
Yeah.
and move right on.
That is so true because
But
it's
yeah,
like when you're trying to do better, it doesn't matter what area of your life that you're trying to do better. There's always going to be a person or a group of people that are going to either try to keep you from growing, try to bring up the days of old,
hmm
like there's no way for you to evolve.
right,
You know what I mean? Try to make you, try to label you as who you were as opposed to who you're becoming, as
right,
a way to try to invalidate your change or your evolution.
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And the thing I think of is Jesus didn't die on the cross for me to say the same.
there you go.
You know,
There you go.
so but yeah, and again, so all of that is difficult, but it's extremely necessary. And the other thing I just thought of, in all fairness, I think if it's a situation where someone has known you for 10 years, for example, of your life, and they know you as being a certain way,
Mhm.
right? And they
Mhm.
see you again 5 or even 10 years later, they
Mhm.
have etched in their mind who and what you are. And that's
Mhm.
understandable. That's how we operate as humans,
Right.
right? But I think we all just have to have the open mind and the wisdom that when you see somebody 5, 10 years later, just like you aren't, I hope, just like you aren't the same person, right? Hopefully you've grown.
Message.
Maybe they have too. Just saying.
Yeah.
I think
No,
that's
that's
something we
real.
have to keep in mind because honestly, it is a human nature thing. You know this person as such and such. And
Right.
so when you see them again, that's how you think of them.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
So,
for some reason, I don't know why this even popped into my head, and I haven't thought about this in years, but you remember years ago when we went to the movies to see Sex in the City,
yes.
and it was
Yeah.
four of us girlfriends, and we got all cute and
Yeah.
everything. At that time, we were all single.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't even remember how many years ago, but that was a long time ago.
It was.
And to think about where we were in our lives at that time, and identifying with that movie. And now I want to say three out of the four of us are married.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's just like, what, one person's a business owner. Like, there's so many things that have happened, so many things that have changed
Yeah.
since then. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's just four people looking at kind of surface level things.
Yeah.
But that's not even taking into consideration the emotional, mental, spiritual changes that have happened
Right.
since that time, for us to get to a place where our lives are what they are now.
Yeah.
you know
Absolutely. And it's, it's just funny because the years just go by, and this is kind of a tangent, but kind of relating. Um, we were watching the Bernie Mac show, and he said what the year was, and he said 2004. And I'm like, what? What? We're watching a show from 17 years ago? What? This is a whole human ago?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
time is just so funny. Time seems to just fly by, but when you think about it, it's a good chunk of time, and that's a lot of evolution, if you will, for a person.
yeah, or not.
Well,
Yeah,
or yes, or not. It's just a lot of time to just be the same,
yes,
but I hope that most people do change in a positive way,
yeah.
over that period of time.
Hmm.
So yeah. Um, so that's our thoughts on that. So you have to make those changes. And so the other thing I thought of too was setting boundaries.
Mm.
And you and I have had this discussion, and you have talked to me more so than it being a discussion. You have had to talk to me about this. So let's talk about setting boundaries, ma'am.
Yes. Oh, it's one of the most necessary and scary things
Mhm.
to do, especially when you're talking about boundaries with loved ones.
Yeah.
It's easy to kind of well, I'm not going to say easy because everybody has a different comfort level, but I'll say that it's easier to set boundaries with the outside world,
Mhm.
because there's no personal connection there. But when you're talking about, family, friends, even coworkers, or business colleagues or whatever, it becomes a lot more difficult to establish boundaries, because maybe you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
Mhm.
Maybe you're worried about, how those boundaries can negatively impact the relationship,
Yeah.
or change the dynamic, because sometimes people don't like when boundaries are being set, especially if they benefit from there not being any boundaries,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know um and so it's necessary for our peace to really take into consideration what it is that we need to be a happy, whole person. And if there are things or people or circumstances that infringe upon that peace, there have to be boundaries established in order for that peace to be maintained.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cut someone out of your life, if that's not what you want to do. But you may have to figure out ways to interact with them in a way that is safe,
Mm-hmm.
for you. And so, like, I'll mention something without mentioning something. There's a person in my life that's important to me that has issues with substances, and I love this person very much,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to cut this person completely out of my life. But at the same time, I know because addiction is a problem, that there's certain things that just can't happen. So I can love you at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is any physical contact with this person, um, ground rules have to be set in order for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Location, time of day,
Mm-hmm.
um, who else is around.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things um, play a part based upon previous interactions or observations on what's what the interaction will be like.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that sometimes with addiction it can be very unpredictable. But if you are dealing with somebody who has addiction issues, and maybe they you know maybe they tend to cycle in their drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that they're addicted to, in a certain way.
Yeah.
So, maybe earlier in the day or later in the evening, is more problematic, and
Mm-hmm.
so the likelihood of when they tend to be sober, for lack of a better word, their temporary sobriety, um, it might be better to interact with them at that time, if that's somebody that you still want to keep in your life, but to create healthy boundaries, or
Yeah.
maybe it's, well, they have to understand, I'm not going to give you money because I don't feel comfortable with that. That's not going to be the nature of our relationship, regardless of what has happened in the past. I no longer can give you money because I know and understand what potentially that money is going to go to, and I'm not okay with enabling you in your addiction. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a more of an extreme example, but there's all kinds of things that people can do and say to infringe upon your peace, compromise your sanity,
Yeah.
and you have to be willing to draw a hard line in the sand and choose yourself first. It doesn't make you selfish, this is about self-care.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
Right. And I think it's something that a lot of people, especially women are learning. We inadvertently, I don't think it's so much direct, but inadvertently we learn that we are supposed to pour so much into everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're such nurturers and caretakers. And I think we're finally learning that we are not the best caretakers and nurturers that we can be if we're sacrificing ourselves.
Yes.
And there's always been this badge of honor related to sacrificing yourself as a woman, and giving your all to your husband and giving your all to your job and giving your all to your kids and everything else but you. There's a badge of honor of I sacrifice myself and I never have time and I'm just so tired, you know. And it's like, oh, but you're such a good mom. You look like crap, but you're such a good mom, And it's like, no, because you could be such a better mom, wife, employee, business owner, just you,
Mm-hmm.
if you took better care of yourself. And so I think we are finally learning that and embracing that,
Mm-hmm.
as women in general. I honestly believe, Black women, I think some of us have taken the other extreme of me, 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 me,
Mm.
and forget y'all. And it's like, no. We didn't say go all the way to that side. We mean take care of you as you take care of others. And so I don't know. I think that's just really important. And, you know, another thing I thought of that kind of goes along with that is we can't hold ourselves responsible for how others interpret our change. We can't hold others responsible for hold ourselves responsible for how others interpret our setting boundaries and taking time for ourselves and taking charge of how we spend our time.
Yes.
You know, however you want to interpret that, just as how you interpret that. However you want to react to that, it's just going to have to be how you react to that. We have to be at peace with the decisions that we're making, you know, with where our heart is and what our goals are in terms of taking care of ourselves and developing ourselves into who we want to be.
Yes.
And it's tough. You know, I'm not going to sit here and lie. It's tough, especially if you have been or find yourself still in a place of trying to gain acceptance from others.
Yes.
And, you know, you have to understand, you have to learn, if you haven't gained acceptance from someone in your whole lifetime and you 30, 40 years old, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And you have to just be okay with that. You know, you just have to be okay with that, because sometimes you just have to accept people for who and where they are. Not sometimes, all the time. You have to accept people for who and where they are. And that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And understand that maybe they couldn't give that to you because they haven't given it to themselves.
Ooh, message.
I mean,
and with that, you know, I just want to say this really quick. In accepting a person for who they are, that doesn't mean that they get an open-ended invitation into your life. Because if who they are is toxic and detrimental to you, then you have every right to protect yourself from that.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And again, I emphasize, I don't want anybody to, you know, be like, they act like this is so easy. No, I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult to do. It's one thing to know what you should do, and it's another thing to be able to do it. I've always, I don't want to say hate, but strongly disliked when everybody thought it was so deep when Oprah said, when you know better, you do better. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true. That is absolutely positively not true in any way, shape, or form. Now, I will say you can't do better if you don't know better. Right. But just because you do know better doesn't mean you will do better.
Right.
This is a whole lot of stuff that we as adults know that's like, I shouldn't really be doing this. And but, I do know better, but.
Right. There's a whole lot of steps in between the knowing better and doing better. There's a whole lot of steps. Yeah.
It's a whole lot of steps. It's a whole lot of, you know, mental, emotional, I mean, oh my goodness, issues to take care of in between all of that. And that's really what we're talking about. How do you get from the I don't know to the I do know to the now I'm going to apply it? That's a whole lot between all of that. But it all comes down to, you really have to find, I don't know, it sounds kind of crazy, but you have to find your center, meaning what is the core of your life? What is your go-to in terms of where you find guidance, where you find peace? What's your compass, pretty much? You know, for some people, it could, you know, the God that you serve. For other people, it could be some type of meditation. You know, you feel connected to nature itself. Whatever your compass is, whatever your go-to is, you have to focus on that. That has to be your indeed real go-to, not just when you're having a bad day, not just when you want to have some quote quiet time, But when you get to a place where it's like, I'm taking charge of my life and me, and shaping and forming myself into the best me I can be, and making sure that I have everyday peace, then, if you're going to do that, that core has to indeed be that.
Yeah.
Your core and your go-to. And I think that's really what's going to be important and help in this process. And good old-fashioned counseling.
Whew. Hello.
You can have Jesus in counseling. It's okay.
Or Muhammad or Buddha or whomever.
Right.
Yes.
But for most Black folk, you know what I mean? Or a lot of Black folk. But you're right. You can have your religion or your spirituality and counseling. They can be friends.
Yeah.
They can absolutely be friends, because I think a lot of times we get twisted in thinking if you do one, you don't need the other. And if you do one and have the other, it negates the other.
Right.
Or it's disrespect to the other. And it's not.
It's not.
It's not at all. And I think it's necessary and important if it's something that you are able to do, or if you just find yourself in a place where whatever else you're doing just isn't working and you don't see growth. If you're in a place where it's like, I just don't see growth and healing,
Well, listen, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but all Black people need therapy. Okay, I'm just going to say it. And whoever is going to be mad, go ahead and get big mad, because I'm going to say it again. All Black people, in my opinion, need therapy. There are too many things that we come into the world with that we have no control over. There is a legacy of hardship and strife and nonsense that is impressed upon us before we can even formulate sentences. And you marinate in the womb in that, you grow up in that, you develop who you are as an individual in that. Every time that you're turning on the television, there's images that are saying that you are inferior. So that's just for that. That doesn't even speak to family issues or, anything, choices that you may have made in life that were traumatic for you. You know what I mean? Or maybe trauma that was imposed upon you. We're not even getting into that. Just you being a Black person in this country in particular, but really anywhere in the world as a Black person, there is some degree of the element that I'm speaking of. And so we need therapy. You know what I mean? And we can't, whether it's the church, well, I'll start there. Good old Holy Ghost filled sanctified church folk. No disrespect. But it seems like when it's the things that the good church folk, that the things that they don't really want to deal with in their life because it's hard, oh, God gonna work it out. But anything that you want to do, no matter how hell-bound it might make you, those decisions you'll make, you ain't seeking God in that. But in things that require you to move so that you can be better, you're gonna let God do that, right? God gonna find you a husband. God gonna pay your bills. God gonna help you to find a better job. God, you know what I'm like? It's always God, not oh, well, maybe if you're looking for a husband, you need to work on becoming a wife. Because you got to be a wife when he finds you, right? But you don't want to do no work on yourself to be pleasing to the man so that he could choose you. See, you're just gonna ask God to just deliver a man on your doorstep like Amazon in the next 3 to 5 business days.
Don't give Amazon no idea.
Girl, they delivering everything else. They might as well add that.
You know it's almost Christmas. Don't give them no idea.
But and I'm not trying to go off on no tangent, and I'm certainly not trying to be disrespectful in any kind of way. And certainly, just as well as I do, because we both grew up in the church, how that can be. And we take the power away from ourselves, the God-given power. Okay, because this is not on some disrespecting what I believe God's power to be. In no way. You know what I mean? Of course, God can change a situation in an instant. So in no way am I taking away from that. But what I'm talking about is personal responsibility.
Yes.
And scripture speaks about personal responsibility. First and foremost, we all have free will. And if anybody has read a significant amount of the Bible, then they know about the story of the man by the pool, who was just sitting there, waiting for somebody to put him in the pool. When he had all of the tools that he needed to get himself in the pool, but he was waiting on somebody else to do it. It's the same thing. We are capable of making changes in our lives for the better, but because it's easier to just put it on God, see, we don't have to be responsible now. See, it appears that we're just this dutiful, obedient servant of the Lord, and we're just waiting for him to see, it ain't me. It's not my lack of effort, because I'm being obedient. I'm just sitting here waiting on the Lord quietly. You know what I mean? It's foolishness.
Yeah.
It's foolishness. And you're going to be in the same situation waiting 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now for the same thing, because while you waiting on God, God waiting on you.
I was getting ready to say the same thing. I was getting ready to say the exact same thing. And that applies in so many situations. And it's like, you have to check yourself. A lot of times you just have to check yourself in what it is you're doing. There are times to be still and wait on God, but that's usually after you've done all the things that you can do.
Yes.
And you say, all right, Lord, I done did everything I'm supposed to do. Okay, I done filled out all these applications. I done gone online. I done called my friends and family. You knowing about it. Please pass this on. I done did what I can do, Lord. Now it's on you.
Mm-hmm. And the way that you know that whether you have or you haven't done all that you can do is, we have all experienced a nagging, annoying thought. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And you don't do it, and you sit around and you wait around, and you know that your gut, whether you call it your gut, your intuition, whether you call it God's voice, whatever it is that you call it, you hear that you need to do this, you need to do this. And it starts to get on your nerves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you start to feel some type of way because you keep hearing this, but you know that this is something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it because it's hard.
It's true.
So I would just encourage people, today that's listening, if there's something that you are hearing in your spirit about moving forward, or in any aspect of your life, you need to listen to that and take heed to that and find ways to move towards making that happen.
Yeah.
Just a little side note.
We won't gonna stay nice and calm and peaceful, but so long before we jump on you, but but it's all coming from a place of love, and it's all honestly coming from a place of experience, and a lot of times as we're talking to you, we're talking to ourselves.
Yes.
Or our former selves in a lot of instances, and from a place of been there. And I'm telling you, this is what you have to do to get to another place, of peace, of self-acceptance, of, all of those things, in your life. It takes a lot of work in terms, of really just focusing on you. It honestly, it's not a lot, if any, work from anyone else. This isn't something that involves other people.
Right.
The only time it involves other people is when you're setting your boundaries, and when you are coming to terms with who and what someone else is, and figuring out where to place them and shift them in your life,
Yes.
whether to keep them close or keep them far away. So even in that instance, they're still not involved because they have no control over
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to, but they have no control over that.
Yes.
So this is a very personal struggle, a very personal time of work. And again, that's part of what makes it difficult, because you can't put none of this on nobody else,
Yes.
But I find power in that.
Absolutely.
I really do. I find power in that, because you have the opportunity to say, okay, I'm not going to continue to say what somebody else is doing to me, or what somebody else has done to me, or a situation that somebody put me in.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my responsibility for me? In making choices and saying no.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things. There's power in that. There's power in refusing to be victimized in terms of all of those things. And I'm not talking about when someone is truly a victim and someone has forced them into something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in terms of choices and relationships.
Yes.
It's powerful to take control. It's not easy, but it is powerful at the end of the day.
I agree. I agree. So I wanted to go back a little bit to something that you said, because I had a thought when you were talking about um, the woman that is, sacrificing, and kind of the martyr
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to the me
Mm-hmm.
woman of today. And I wonder if women of today saw the women of like our grandmothers or great
Mm-hmm.
grandmothers' time and said, I don't want to sacrifice myself to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And so now, instead of worrying about everybody else, I'm taking it to the farthest extreme from that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because really, there's so many different things, and I don't want to go too far off topic, but there's so many different things that women today do that are different from the days of our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it has negatively impacted the Black family. And we've talked about this in different ways on other shows.
Mm-hmm.
But in this particular thing, like, is this kind of this self-absorption, this overwhelming uh belief system in self-care beyond, well, self-care in excess,
Mm-hmm.
is that a um kind of like a rebellion to the lessons of our grandparents?
I I think it can be. Honestly, I don't know if it's if a rebellion, against, our grandparents, if you will, is so much the case as it is the messages that are being um pushed in media and society in general. Because from what I'm seeing, my perspective is what's being pushed is, um, you know, part of it comes from, happy wife, happy life
Mm,
kind of thing.
mm,
Um, you know, a woman's feelings matter, but if a man shows emotion, he needs to suck it up. It's all
mm,
of this focus, more and more focus on the woman and her feelings and her needs, and totally dismissing men, right?
mhm,
Instead of saying men have needs and women have needs, those needs are different, but we all have needs and we all work together and we're a unit. I think
mhm,
it's the breakdown of the thought, or the concept, and really operating in us being a unit, and going towards everything is focused on the woman, you know kind of thing. just to kind of go back again to when we were watching the Bernie Mac show, was an episode where Bernie was trying to figure out what to get his wife for her birthday. And he showed one of the kids what he was getting her, and they were like, ugh. And he was like, I was confident in what I was doing, and now I'm not confident. And then, one of her girlfriends comes and tells him, well, she said, you better step it up this year. What does that even mean? It's like, step it up or what?
Right.
It's the thing of I'm supposed to go, above and beyond for her. So I think it's the flip of the focus on us. And it's simply because you deserve it. Why?
Right.
Why? You know what I mean? It's not even about meeting needs or anything really that reasonable, or like, what my husband was saying. He's like, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a man all year, if I'm sporadically giving you flowers and giving you compliments and, just doing whatever else throughout the year, why do I have to do backflips when your birthday comes, when Christmas comes, when Valentine's Day comes, simply because society says that's what the holiday is and that's what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, that's real.
And it's never for the men. It's not, Valentine's Day ain't for men. How many commercials you see about Valentine's Day gifts for men? I'll wait.
Nope.
So it's become that focus on women are supposed to be indulged, not just taken care of, not just cared for. You're not supposed to just care for yourself. You're supposed to indulge yourself.
Yes.
And that is the problem. We have, been bamboozled into believing that it's all about us. Yes. And men are supposed to go above and beyond to do what makes us happy, even though we don't know what makes us happy, and even though whatever they do ain't gonna make us happy anyway, because we decided they ain't worth nothing. No way. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. True. So, I think that's why we are where we are. I don't know how we got here. I don't know how that shift happened. I believe it happened slowly and gradually. But it happened. And that's the message that we are being bombarded with. And, I believe it's more detrimental to us as Black folk than it is to anybody else. And I know this is more of an American thing. I do understand the US, of course, affects, other countries all across the world. Our culture affects them, but it's not going to affect them to the degree that it affects us here in America, and not to the degree that it affects Black folks, because we already, we're already toe up, as a culture and as a people. So
that's real.
That's just my belief in that one.
Well, you know what? When you had said something about women being indulged, I thought about in the 80s, if you remember, there was the Bonbon commercial, and I think we had talked about this before. And the whole premise behind the commercial, it was, this housewife, and she's, overworked and all of this stuff, you know what I mean, with, all of the chores and tasks. And it's like, she just takes this one moment where she opens the box and she has the bonbons, and it's like euphoria, all of the chaos and madness of the day pauses, and she's, in total heaven, and, so that kind of, to me, like, that kind of signifies the beginnings of that type of thinking. And you're just so on point with that, how it just has progressively turned into, now women are just like, well, to be a wife, I just show up. Like, I don't need to cook, I don't need to clean, I don't need to respect you as a man. I don't need to be under your covering, your leadership. I don't need any of that. I'm gonna do what I do, and I need you to go ahead and run me that money.
Yep. I brought meat to the table. What you bring to the table? I brought meat.
Right. And you should be grateful.
Mm.
You should be grateful that I just showed up.
Mm.
Like, wow.
To take all your money and your time and everything else valuable in your life and your dignity.
Yes. It's,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we always end up here?
Because it's just,
Yeah.
that's
It's,
all I can say. It's like sometimes things you can only just go through a range of sounds because it's just so ridiculous.
we need to like run back some clips where it's just like, oh my God. Oh Lord. Yeah. 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 It's true. And it, I don't know how we got here. But you know what? I would say, right, that in a lot of these cases where you do have women that are demanding that they be indulged and demanding that all of these things are being given to them, I would say that it's because these women are not okay with themselves.
Mhm.
People who are usually most uncomfortable with themselves and not okay with themselves are very demanding of others.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
And that's the truth. That's
Mhm.
really the truth. Women that are screaming, hollering, always going through your man's phone, checking his emails, you
Mhm.
know, being, Inspector Gadget, you're
Mhm.
not cool with you. Now,
Yes.
some cases may be you just chose a dude that just won't no good, but that still has to do with you.
Well, indeed. Indeed.
So no matter what you do, that U-turn comes right on back.
It does. And this need to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some of the videos that I see online with our young Black women, some of the things that they do,
Mm-hmm.
the levels that they're willing to degrade themselves for a like
Yeah.
or a share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sad.
It
And it
is.
all comes back to, what once again, it's a self issue.
It
There's
is.
some things on the inside that need to be healed, and you have to be willing to take an honest look because who knows you better than you? You should be in tune with yourself, even if you don't want to tell yourself the truth. Because I think we've all been at a stage in our life where we've had some level of denial
Mm-hmm.
about what was going on in our lives. But we know who we are, and we know that there are things that aren't working in our lives. And
Yeah.
that if we don't address those things, it's like Groundhog's Day. It doesn't
Yeah.
go away. It just keeps manifesting in your life in new ways, with new people, in new situations, new circumstances. How do you continue dating the same woman, the same man with a different face?
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, something, excuse me, something else me and my husband like to watch, which is weird, but whatever. We like watching divorce court.
Hmm.
And it's funny because we've watched the earliest one with Judge Maybelline.
Hmm.
We watched the next one with Judge Lynn Toller.
Hmm.
And we watched the latest one with Judge Faith, who we
Hmm.
already liked because we would watch her show. But when you binge it, because we pretty much binge it, we'll watch several episodes back to back. When you binge it, it's interesting because you start to see the patterns in behavior. And for me personally, I see the patterns in behavior of the women, right? They come on there and they're saying, oh, he's a cheater, he's a liar, he won't work. That's the Trinity. He's a
Hmm.
cheater, he's a liar. It is. It is.
The deadbeat trinity.
That's the deadbeat Trinity. He's a cheater, he liar, and he won't go to work. You know, but it's like then when you listen to her, it's she has all of these things going on with her. She's not okay with her because you chose him. And a lot of times it's like they'll talk about all of these instances, because I love, that they say, well, give me specific examples. Don't just give me generalities. Tell me specific examples. And they'll give them, and they'll talk about all these things that happen that it's like 3-4 years before they got married.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But see, you don't see a problem with this. You don't see the issue is that all of this happened and then you got married. And I was like, it should be a rule that you tell them, I don't want to discuss nothing that happened before you got married,
Yes.
because you accepted them as they are
Mm-hmm.
once you decided to marry them. But the problem is, none of that behavior was acceptable or
Yes.
should have been acceptable. So what's going on with you that made any of that acceptable for you to stay with them for 4 years, and then after those 4 years turn around and marry them, and here you are today, 3 kids later?
Yes.
It
Yes.
blows my mind, not to dismiss the behavior of the men, but I'll say this. I remember I gave advice to one of my younger girlfriends some years ago, and we were talking about dating, and I said, look, your only job, in my opinion, as a woman, when a man or men are trying to court or date you, your only two things you're supposed to do is say yes or no and make yourself available. That's it. All the other extra stuff of when you coming over here, where we going, can we go here, why you ain't call me, why you ain't text, that's extra. You're not supposed to be doing all of that. You doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
You either say yes or no when he asks you, can he or will you,
Mm-hmm.
and you make yourself available if that's somebody you want to be with. That's it.
Yeah.
That
That's
is
real.
it. We're doing too much, and it all comes down to because we are short of what it is we need to be fulfilled as a complete woman, as a complete person.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's real.
And we
Well,
have
and
no
because
business
it's
dating.
there you go. There you go. Because the little girl, because in order to be a complete woman, you got to be a complete 6-year-old.
Mm.
And a lot of females who are chronologically women have an unfulfilled, depleted 6-year-old,
Yeah.
and they keep trying to put a band-aid on the woman, but there's a bullet wound in the 6-year-old.
Mm.
So
And you looking for a man to be the daddy that you needed.
yes, yes, that's real, and not daddy,
Yeah, that's zaddy.
but
It's a whole other issue. We mean
but
father.
but either way it goes, like all of that, you can try to run from yourself, but guess what? When you get to that destination,
There you are.
there you are. So you're only prolonging the inevitable.
Yeah.
Because I'll say this, evolution happens no matter what.
Right.
So you can choose to be open to it and embrace it and do what you need to do for that to occur, which gives you power, which gives you some control in the situation. Or you can let life bash you upside the head and create that evolution. You know what I mean? It's up to you, because you're going to get the lessons that God, the universe, whatever term you want to use, you're going to get the teaching.
Right.
So you can either decide, I'm going to sit my happy behind down and I'm going to open up this book and I'm going to figure out the book of me.
Right.
Or I'm going to let life toss me around until I have no other choice but to accept that this is what it is. And I need to make some changes because I'm tired and I'm broke down.
Right. Or as the streets might say, you're going to learn today.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah. So, we say all this to say, I know it's like they just went off on a tangent. Yes and no.
Right.
Yes and no. Because this all comes back to what we're talking about is getting to know you, dealing with what your issues are so that you can get to another place of being at peace. And then kind of to touch on what I inserted a minute ago, until you do all of that, you're having issues with dating because you ain't got no business dating.
Right.
You have no business dating because what that means is you're trying to find somebody for you. But who are you?
Right.
What are you? What are your standards? Let's start there. Do you have standards? What are they? Do they even make sense? He needs to be 6'2" is not a standard, ma'am. It's a wish.
But I want my babies to have curly hair. No, that ain't a standard.
That's not a standard. That's a genetic recommendation.
Oh my goodness.
That's a conversation between you and your maker that I guarantee you he's not going to have with you. So,
yes.
So yes, all of that foolishness, and that goes into lists, and that's a whole other thing where I am totally against sitting down and making lists, because you end up making a list of stuff that doesn't even matter. Your list of important things is in your heart. You do not need to write it down and go and revisit it when it comes to finding someone else. That's a whole other topic. But again, you can't get there until you're cool with you. And I really, really believe that's why so many people are having so many problems dating. You're not cool with you, and you want them to do magic and make you happy and fulfill all this stuff for you, where it's not up to your mate to complete you.
Yes.
It sounds so romantic and so deep when someone says you complete me. I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
What if I don't want to complete you?
Yeah. It's a lot of responsibility.
That's a lot of responsibility to put on me. You need to have been completed before you came here.
Yep. And it's a responsibility that you can never meet.
No.
You know, you can't fill a void that you didn't create. You know, that's real. It's like every time we finish a show, I'm so fired up. I feel like I just exercised.
Need a nap. After all of this. See, now you know you need to do some self-care, because why? You know who you are and what you need. Okay. So that was a lot, y'all. We know that was a lot, but I think it was all good stuff to really think about. So again, we have links below for the three previous parts of this whole series, and we hope that you will listen to them again and again, share them with others, like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, continue the conversation. Okay, it's all about having the conversation, continuing the conversation, and just be open-minded and really think about what we have to say. As always, we say we are not experts, and nobody has a PhD, LMNOP on any of this, right? But we feel like we have some, wisdom to offer, what we've learned in our experiences, and a lot of times what we've learned the hard way. In our experiences in life, and just how we have grown as women, as Black women. And we just want to share that. And this is all about empowering other Black women. We want to see our sisters just be happy, be powerful, and be better. Period.
Yes.
For themselves and for us as a people.
Yes.
Anything else you wanted to add, Madam Buddaphlai?
I'm just excited for the announcement that you're getting ready to give the people.
All right, y'all. So, believe it or not, we have had this podcast, this show, for almost a year. It will be a year on the 15th, and we are so excited about that. We are so excited. And so we are going to have a special show that is going to be live. Hear me what I said. Live, meaning you will get to see our faces.
Clutch the pearls.
Clutch the pearls and hold it tight, right? So yeah, we're gonna do a live show. So it's gonna be us in person on the screen. We're gonna do like some reviews of some of our favorite, shows from the past. We may have some special guests. Might even be able to convince NERDSoul to pop in. What?
Whoop, whoop.
So yeah, it's just gonna be a lot of fun. So that's gonna be coming up on the
24th, Sunday, October the 24th, Sunday, October 24th.
Sunday. Yeah. So that's what it's going to be. We'll be giving more details. So if you have not joined our Facebook group, please do so. We will be posting information there. We'll post our videos and different commentary there. Look for us on Instagram, on Twitter,
Yes.
all those different places. And so we are excited about that. So we hope that you will tune in, tell others about it, go in and catch up on videos that you haven't seen so that you know what we're kind of talking about, because we're going to be talking about some old videos and, starting some stuff up again, that we've already talked about. We don't mind talking about controversial topics. So, it's all in love and all with respect. So there you go. So yes, we're looking forward to that, October the 24th, and the time is to follow soon. So as always, we want to thank NERDSoul for allowing us to be on this platform. We want to thank you for listening, for commenting, and again, like, comment, subscribe, and most of all, continue the conversation. All right. So we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.
Peace, love, and light, everybody.